Scott, fellow hungry travelers. Mark here with Wolters World, and today we're in Innsbruck, Austria. Today we're going to talk about are the eats of Austria. And there's so many great foods and drinks and things to have when you're here that I obviously can't talk about all of them. So what I thought I'd do is really focus on some of the most traditional Austrian foods you should have on your vacation here, so you can get a taste or a feel of the food of this beautiful country. And I want to start off with probably the most famous food from Austria that people really associate with Austria, and that's Schnitzel, but specifically Wiener Schnitzel. And so if you're not sure what the difference between a Schnitzel is and a Wiener Schnitzel, well, Wiener Schnitzel is actually veal, okay? And then it's pounded out, breaded, and then fried and served up that way, probably with a slice of lemon, maybe some potato salad, maybe fries if you like, or just by itself. But that is very much a thing, and you can get it all over the country. And the thing is, if you don't want to have it in a veal form, there's plenty of other versions, because honestly, the veal one, a lot more expensive. You can get it made with pork, you can make it with chicken, you can get it made with turkey, okay? So there's a lot of different kinds of schnitzels you can have, but honestly, you gotta have a schnitzel when you're here, okay? Wiener Schnitzel, it's the way to go. Now, next on our list is another famous Austrian dish that you see all over the world, really, these days, but strudel. Specifically, Apfelstrudel. If you can get the Apfelstrudel, oh my gosh. And if you're not sure, it's dough, and inside the dough, you have all this apple compote and apples in there. It's just so good. Like, it's one of those things you have to have. It's very much a power punch of a dessert, but something you should have. And some people, they're like, look, I can get Apfelstrudel at home. Is there any other kinds of strudels I can have? Yes, there are other strudels you can have when you're here. Topfenstrudel, which has got like a quark cheese in the middle, or like, if you're not sure what quark is, think Direction Philadelphia cream cheesy, but not that way. That's what it is. That's another really good one is there. And here's a hint. If they offer it to you and they say, do you want vanilla sauce or vanilla ice cream? Always get the vanilla sauce. Any dessert you can hear in Australia, I ask if you want vanilla sauce, get it with the vanilla sauce. It's fantastic, all right? Now, let's get into other Austrian dishes that maybe you haven't heard about, but you'll definitely see on the menus here again and again and again. And especially here at Innsbruck, Knödel. Knödel are dumplings, and they love their dumplings here. And there's a lot of different kinds of dumplings. There's traditional potato dumplings and bread dumplings you can get. Yeah, you have those. It might be as a side dish, or it might be, I had one, a Semolina dumpling that was stuffed inside of veal and cooked. Oh my God, it was so good. But the thing is, there's a lot of different kinds of dumplings, okay? You might have, like if you're here in Innsbruck, they love speck, they love bacon. So it's actually a Speckknödel, which is a bacon dumpling. So it's got bacon bits in it. It's so good. And they might serve it in like a beef broth. Oh, you can't go wrong with that. I've seen Spinatknödel, which is spinach dumplings. You can have that. There's cheese dumplings you can get. There's all kinds of different types of dumplings. Oh, if you want a sweet one, there's Jamknödel, which is like a very soft dumpling with a plum, like jam in the middle, and I had the vanilla sauce, remember that? On top, if you can get that. It's not everywhere, but that is a fantastic thing to have. So dumplings as a side, or sometimes as a main dish, can be a really good thing, and it is very much an Austrian thing, okay? Now, another very traditional Austrian dish is called Tafelspitz, which is basically boiled meat. I want to tell you, it's boiled meat, so you can kind of get an idea. It's a soft meat because it's been boiled. It's not always the most tasty thing out there, but it's something that's very traditional. Actually, I like the sides that come with it more than I actually like the actual meat itself. But that is something that is super traditional from here that you can have. Now, the thing is, you'll notice there's a lot of food they give you in this big portion sizes, so you can get really full very fast when you're here. So sometimes you want something smaller, right? And here's the thing, the soup, the Suppen. Oh my gosh, they have so many good soups when you're here in Austria. Probably the most famous one is the Goulaschsuppe, the goulash soup, which, it's Austro-Hungarian Empire. So it's a Hungarian soup, but they love it here. And it's got meat and veggies and paprika in it. That's the key thing there. It is very much a hearty stew, goulash kind of thing. It's so good. You want to have that. But if you want something a little bit like less punchy, like less filling, you have Rindsuppe, which is beef soup. And what it has is, it's a beef broth, and then the beef broth, they'll put veggies and beef in there, and it's really, really good as well. And sometimes you can just get beef broth with a dumpling inside, like a Leberknödel, a liver dumpling in it, or maybe a Speckknödel like you have here at Innsbruck. They put that in there. But they do really like their soups when you're here. One of my favorite soups to get in Austria is actually the Kürbiscremesuppe, which is the cream of pumpkin soup. Oh, So good if you can get it. Now, the next thing on our list can be a side dish or it can be a main dish, and that is Spätzle. And Spätzle are these noodles, these Austrian noodles, which are so good. Now, they don't look like your pasta noodles from Italy. No. These are definitely a different kind of noodle. And you can get it plain. You can get it with butter on it. You can get the Käsespätzle, the cheese Spätzle. Oh my gosh, that's a really fantastic one. And don't think macaroni and cheese, because though it is like noodles and cheese, it's so much more than that. And then with some caramelized onion in there too, you can just get Spätzle. If you see it on there, have it as a side. You're welcome. Now, another traditional main dish here in Austria is a Backhände, which is basically Austrian fried chicken. Now, when I say fried chicken, a lot of people think of KFC and greasy kind of stuff. Don't think of it that way. It's fried chicken, it's breaded and fried, but it's not like greasy mess. It's almost like it's a shake and bake, like consistency when you get it. It's actually really good. You can have that. I've seen it all over the place. And if you're tired of the Schnitzels and the Tafelspitz, you can't go wrong with Backhände. Now, if you're looking for like a quick snack, there's tons and tons of Wurst here, tons and tons of sausages. But probably the most famous sausage from Austria is the Wiener Wurst. You might know it as a Wiener. You might know it as a Wiener sandwich, as my grandma used to call it. Looks like a hot dog. Yes. That's from here. And when you get them, it can be where you literally just get like two basically wieners, sausages, right? And then they put some mustard there and you get a Semmel, a roll. Oh, the bread here is great. I'll go into that later. But you just have that, and that could be a nice little snack. They sell it on the train here. It's like a snack kind of thing. When you're out on the street, you might see a kiosk that's selling sausages, and they'll have the Wiener Wurst, the Vienna sausages. And what I love is they have these like plungers, and they'll plunge like a roll, big long roll in there. They'll put the ketchup or mustard in there, and then they put the Wiener Wurst inside of it. It's so good. But there's tons of other sausages you can get when you're here. I personally love the Käsekleine, which is think cheese-infused bratwurst with mustard. Oh, you can't go wrong with that. And honestly, the breads in general, like, yeah, you get a roll or bread with your sausage or whatever whenever you're here, but anytime you get bread here in Austria, you don't want to pass up going to a bakery when you're here, because the fresh bread and the fresh rolls, or Semmel, oh my gosh, so good when you're here. It's like, don't be surprised if breakfast you're actually cutting your own fresh bread to enjoy at breakfast. And I actually have a whole video on breakfast in Austria, so watch that if you want to know what to eat for breakfast here. I also have one for desserts as well, but I think it's important for me to mention more than just the strudel as a dessert, because the Kaffee und Kuchen culture here, the cafe culture of having a coffee and having a slice of cake is really a thing. It's not just in Viennese cafes, but throughout the country. Just sit back and relax, have a coffee, or I recommend the hot chocolate here. Oh my gosh, it's so good, with a slice of cake. And there's tons and tons of different cakes around, okay? The Saurkraut, that's probably the most famous. And what it is, it's a really dense chocolate cake, and in the middle, it's got apricot jam, and it's got like almost like a fondant chocolate on top. It is not super sweet. And I'll say that desserts here in Austria, not super sweet, okay? So be aware of that. Now, another torte you can get is the Linse torte, which has got like a shortbread base, and then there's a fruit filling, and they have a lattice work on top. If you don't want to get that one, you'll be able to see Linse cookies and get those instead. Those are a nice thing. But I think for me, my favorite of the kind of cake kind of things is the Cremeschnitte, which is a vanilla custard cake. Basically, puff pastry, vanilla custard, puff pastry. Can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong with that one, okay? But there's a lot of other ones out there. There's an apricot cake you can get. Any kind of schnitte that has fruit in it, you're gonna be okay. So make sure you have that. The thing is, there's a lot of good drinks you can have when you're here as well. Austria's probably most famous for its wine. Like, I find its wine much better than its beer. There's some decent beers here too, but the wine here is very good. The eastern part of the country makes a lot of really good white wines and other wines there. Now, if you're looking at non-alcoholic drinks, you can drink the water here, no problem. So there's nothing worried about that. But just know that getting tap water is kind of not a faux pas, but not really cool here. So usually you're gonna get sparkling water or still water. You do have to pay for that. But I think for non-alcoholic drinks, one, Red Bull is actually from Austria, but I don't know if that's really something you need to do unless you want to stay up for hours. But for me, what I love getting every time I come here, this is like my go-to soft drink when I'm here, is Almdulde. And I can never pronounce it, but basically think of it, it's like bubbly herbs from the mountains in soda form. I like to kind of think of it as like a Austrian version of ginger ale. It's not ginger ale, but it's in that kind of direction. It's very super refreshing, okay? That's one of the things I always love getting when I'm here. Like when I fly into Vienna, when I teach here every so often, that's the first thing I get at the airport for my ride in to have my amdala as I come in. I love it. And the thing is, there's lots of regional dishes as well when you go around Austria. So please, there's regional dishes you think people should have.
And then,
You've actually had this stuff before. Just
sehr
not
gut. Guten Appetit, das ist alles für you.
Dankeschön.
Bitte sehr, danke. So, einen Transport haben wir noch und dann haben wir
Yeah, they didn't get you a small one.
that thing is huge.
Say what region it's from and what it is and explain it so they know what to get when they go different places. Because, for example, you're in Salzburg, there's a dessert there called the Salzburger Knuckle. And basically what it is, it's vanilla souffle, and literally it deflates within like 2 minutes of them serving it to you. You gotta have it right away with the raspberry sauce underneath. It's fantastic, but it really is just a thing that you find basically in Salzburg, all right? So do think about that. And one thing I gotta warn you, don't eat your Salzburger Knuckle slow because it deflates. It's a meringue, so it's just gonna go plop down. So they'll bring it out. It takes about 20 minutes to make. It'll come out all big, so get it right away and eat it fast, because otherwise it goes. So, but it still is fantastic. Oh, well, there's another dessert I should mention. It's called a Kaiserschmarrn. And what it is, it's chopped up pancakes. I know it doesn't sound very sexy, but literally chopped up pancakes. You put some apple compote on top. Oh, of course, the powdered sugar's on there too. That's a really good thing to have. But I will mention with the Kaiserschmarrn and the Salzburger Knuckle, these are definitely shareable desserts, okay? So do know that you get kind of good portion size when you're here in Austria. They want to keep you fortified for the winter when it comes, right? And I think if you're going to come out to Austria and you're going to visit, you're going to eat well, but there's some things you should think about. One, make sure you're making reservations on the weekends, because Fridays and Saturday nights, Austrians like to go out with their friends and their family to go out to eat. So there's not just the tourists you're fighting with, it's the locals too that want to enjoy things. So do make reservations. If you're here in peak season, I would make reservations during the week too, just to be safe, so you know you have a place, because the restaurants aren't big, so they can't hold a ton of people. So if you've got a large group, maybe a couple families traveling together, you will want to make a reservation every night, anywhere you're going to be in the country. In terms of service, Austrians are not known for being the most friendly people, and that transfers into service sometimes. Now, I will say this. I've been coming to Austria since the 90s, and I've seen an incredible improvement in service quality and friendliness to tourists and at restaurants all over the country. However, don't be surprised, you might have a little, why am I tipping you kind of paying you service kind of things when you are here, so do be aware of that. Like, usually service is included, but you do kind of add a little bit on for an extra tip, especially if you get really nice service through, 5%, 10% extra on if you want. So you have that, but just something to kind of think about when you come here. So I hope you have a great time eating here in Austria. Don't worry, you will. And maybe don't forget to bring a belt that has an extra loop so you can kind of expand out there, because of all the meat and all the knödel and all the Schnitzel, that's the slices of cakes and pies and stuff, you might need a little extra space, all right? So don't forget, look down in the comments below for other great foods to have here in Austria. And if you think I missed some things, please put it down there so we can help people out, because we didn't really need a 90-minute food video about Austria, because you would have focused on eating, not listening to me. Bye from here in Innsbruck.